Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Another week in college football has passed. Week number 8. I'm going to go through all the ranked games, then we're going to take a look at the power rankings. What is happening right now? Any big upsets? Who moved up? Who moved down? We're going to begin. You can see Michigan absolutely throttling Michigan State. Just a completely uncompetitive game. Both of those Michigan tight ends, oh my goodness. Also, J.J. McCarthy. Guys, I saw something. J.J. McCarthy now, leader for the Heisman. And for Michigan, it's hard because they haven't faced anyone within the top 25. I don't even think they faced anyone with inside the top 50, but you have to kind of rank them number one right now. They are the most complete team in college football. They had the cheating stuff, the allegations. They come out and they just annihilate a rival. It was not close. 14 points all, the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, end up winning 49-0. They cover the 24-point spread. They double it. And a very dominant win there. Next, you do have the top 10 matchup, Ohio State beating Penn State 20-12. And guys, the main question in this one, is it two really good defenses or two really bad offenses? Normally, it's always a little bit of both, and I'm guessing that's what it was in this one. If you are Ohio State, you're very concerned about a few different things on the offensive side of the ball. Number one, Kyle McCord does not seem to be improving. And now, if you're an Ohio State fan, you kind of have to look back and realize that it just looks like Ryan Day straight up made a mistake by taking Kyle McCord over J.J. McCarthy in that recruiting class. When you look at these two players, Kyle McCord has zero mobility. And this is his third year with Ohio State, and now he's starting like his 8th or ninth game. He has the experience, and he just is not getting better. He looked like a deer in headlights. They end up winning. He completed some passes to Marvin Harrison Jr. By the way, guys, maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. entering his name into the Heisman race. I think it's a really long shot because he doesn't have the stats, but still, he is very important to Ohio State. They were without Emeka Egbuka. The other main issue I have with Ohio State, they're not playing their best running back, and it really is shocking. So Dolan Hayden, I think he's great. By far, I'd say he's their best running back. You can say maybe Trevion Henderson because he's faster, but just pound for pound, I will take Dolan Hayden. And they're playing Mayan Williams and Chip Trayanum over him. Both of those guys, they're mediocre, and Ohio State has zero run game because of it. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm actually very concerned for Ohio State next week on the road at Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin lost their starting quarterback, but if Ohio State cannot run the ball and you go into a hostile environment, it's going to be tough. Either way, it is a solid win for Ohio State. Penn State, you got to be completely demoralized with this loss because with Penn State, it's very obvious there's just a lack of skill position players. That's all it is with Penn State. Solid defense, Drew Aller, tough game, going into a hostile environment, noon start time. The Buckeyes get it done. Penn State very likely will drop to like number 9 or number 10. They're not falling very far. I am expecting Ohio State to move up to number 2 in front of Georgia, and I do have Michigan at number 1. I have Michigan 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3. Maybe even FSU 3 or Georgia 4, one of those type of rankings for me. You do have FSU beating Duke. So there's a major asterisk by this game, guys. Duke was up in this one. Riley Leonard was not healthy at all. Duke could not throw the ball. I feel so bad for them. They could have won this game very easily. You can see Florida State outscoring Duke 21-0 in the fourth quarter. Good win for them, no doubt. And they actually end up covering the spread. How bad of if you had Duke, what was it, plus 14.5 or something? Or was the spread 17? I don't know. But either way, that is the worst thing in the world. You're dealing with a quarterback who cannot throw, and then you still end up losing it because Florida State scores 21 points in the fourth quarter. I'm still concerned about Florida State, but right now they are 7-0. Oh my goodness, Washington. What happened to Washington? They end up beating Arizona State 15-7. Michael Penix Jr., the heavy favorite for the Heisman, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. It's a big, big problem for him in terms of his Heisman hopes. I still think he can win the Heisman, but this was not a good look. They do get the job done, though, and they still have that win over Oregon. Survive and advance. It's college football. It is what it is. Moving on. How about this game? Oklahoma hanging on against UCF. Now, to be fair to Oklahoma, this was a very weird start to this game because Oklahoma was sitting minus 20. The line got bet down. on Saturday morning to -17 because John Ryan Plumlee, who nobody thought was going to play, ends up playing, and Oklahoma barely wins. But Oklahoma is very susceptible to an upset, and they've got a few tough games upcoming to where I think they've got a game on the road at Oklahoma State, the rivalry game. Yes, we could see Oklahoma losing that. So we will see. They only win by 2 points. You do have Texas beating Houston. I was all over this one. I loved Houston plus the 20 or plus the 22. And Houston gets a terrible spot at the end. Quinn Ewers gets injured. Texas as well possibly could lose a game before the Big 12 championship. It'll be interesting. They barely squeak out a win in a, kind of a random game against Houston. Technically, that is a conference game. Next, you do have Oregon beating Washington State. Washington State does cover the spread. Oregon ends up winning. This was kind of expected. Washington State always seems to play Oregon tough, but, Oregon gets the job done. They're 6-1. And here it is, guys. My grand finale. Thank God. North Carolina goes down to Virginia, who was 1-5. And they end up, and guys, I said it from the beginning, I was not buying North Carolina, and it ends up paying off for me. Virginia with a crazy upset win, 31-27, a program changer. I'm kidding. It's not a program changer. They are still 2-5. North Carolina certainly will still be ranked, but yeah, they're pretty much done in terms of the playoff. You can't lose to Virginia, especially at home. Next, you've got Alabama beating Tennessee. How about Alabama? Calmly, slowly but surely, they were down 20-7, and they crushed Tennessee in the second half, and they pay it off for me when I loved Alabama minus the 10, and it got bet all the way down to 8, and I still loved Alabama to cover the 10-point spread. This is a solid Alabama football team. Jalen Milroe is showing improvement. He's got huge upside, and Bama, the team that everyone left for dead, 7-1 right now. And by the way, that end of the season, SEC championship, if they get there against Georgia, they might be favorites in that game with Georgia dealing with the injury to Brock Bowers. This is interesting for Alabama. Calmly, quietly, they look great. Ole Miss beats Auburn. Yeah, I did like Auburn to win that game outright. That's unfortunate. And also Ole Miss, to make matters worse, they cover the 6.5-point spread by like half a point. That's disappointing. But listen, Ole Miss right now sitting at 6-1. You have to respect them. Utah beats USC. USC is down bad right now. Oh no, USC 6-2. They still have Oregon and Washington. They're going to lose 4 games this year. Terrible defense. Utah, on the other hand, I don't know what to make of Utah. Who are they starting? They're starting like Bryson Barnes or something. My goodness. Oh my God. I didn't even realize that game ended 62-0. See, that's just disrespectful. Do we really need to run it up on Army? 14 points in the fourth quarter. Guys, so I'm just going to make a quick comment on this. Jalen Daniels, it's not happening in terms of the Heisman. We got to stop. He's putting up all these stats against these bad teams. He's running it up. They've already lost 2 games. It's not happening. The Heisman should be... Well, actually, the Heisman is wide open right now. But, guys, maybe he will actually win it because they still go to Tuscaloosa to face Alabama. Imagine if he has a big game. Oh, my. I mean, it is wide open. Next, you do have Missouri crushing South Carolina. Give credit to Missouri. They're probably going to enter the top 16 or 15 after that win. They easily cover the spread. Air Force beats Navy. So, Air Force actually does really impress me in a game like this. Yes, they only won by 11 points, but they outgained Navy by a ton, and Air Force should enter the top 20, and my prediction on Air Force going undefeated and possibly making the playoff, it is still alive and well after this win. Next, you do have Tulane beating North Texas. Really good performance by North Texas. Thank God, because I did predict them to keep this game close, and it was looking really bad. They were down 21-0. They pull it, they bring it back, and they have a respectable loss. Minnesota beats Iowa. I mean, guys, the biggest lock of the century, the under 31 in this game. And Iowa, they had to rank Iowa, I guess, because they were 6-1. They had 127 yards of offense. It's a total clown show. And then the one game I couldn't include on here, UCLA ended up crushing Stanford. So UCLA is going to move up. They were sitting -17. I think they won that game 42-7. But guys, just getting to the power rankings, you still do have Ohio State sitting at number 1 overall. Not surprising, the win over Penn State. Michigan at number 2, moving up 2 spots. Certainly Michigan, the dominance they've shown, they're going to be a top 1 or 2 team at this point. Again, I have Michigan as number 1, Ohio State number 2. I do have Georgia at number 3, but in this analytical system, the FPI, they do have Penn State at number 3, so certainly you got to disagree with that. Penn State just doesn't have the offensive playmakers to be ranked as a top 3 team in the country. Losing to Ohio State, we're not going to penalize them too bad, but you do also have to understand and look at the game and be like, all right, the team's just not good enough in terms of the offense. Penn State does get Michigan at home, so we will see. But right now, I would probably rank them 7th or 8th, or maybe even lower, but probably 7th or 8th at this point. You do have Oklahoma at number 4, moving down 2 spots. Yeah, that was not a great performance against UCF. You've got Bama moving up 2 spots. Alabama, underrated quietly. Who would have thought that for Alabama? That's funny. It's like we're doing the opposite now. Think about this, guys. Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State has a way better resume than Michigan. On paper, they've got way more talent than Michigan, but Michigan is just like, it's like they're better than Ohio State, and that never used to happen. It was always, oh, Michigan has a better resume, but we all know Ohio State is better. They've got more, and now it's like the exact opposite. It's kind of weird, and a lot of it is because Kyle McCord's just not very good, and also Ohio State refuses to play their best running back, and they also have a bad offensive line. Next, you do have FSU moving up 3 spots to number 6. Yeah, I mean, FSU is undefeated, but I do think this is the FPI not understanding the context of Riley Leonard's injury, and so they're kind of rewarding them for beating a Duke team that was wounded, and they don't realize the injury. You do have Texas moving down 2 spots. Yeah, Texas is, after that game against Houston, they need to be on upset alert. That was not a good game. That game probably should have went to overtime. They got lucky with a really, bad 4th down spot. Georgia at number 8. Yeah, I mean, Georgia, they just haven't beaten anyone. They're like Michigan. Both Georgia and Michigan have had bad schedules, but Georgia has lost their best player to injury, and they can't cover a spread. Michigan is at least crushing everyone, looking great. That's the difference right now between Michigan and Georgia. LSU at number 9. That LSU-Alabama game is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be unbelievable. Oregon City. See, this is something, you can't have LSU in front of Oregon. That's just, that's disrespectful. Oregon they moved down 4 spots, I guess, for beating Washington State. They didn't have good game control in that game. You got Notre Dame at number 11. Notre Dame, very solid team. People are going to be, I don't know about that. Washington is down to number 12. Obviously, Washington should be inside the top 6. If I was ranking them right now, guys, it's Michigan 1, Ohio State 2, Washington 3, Georgia 4, FSU 5, maybe Oklahoma 5, FSU 6. It would be something like that. But yeah, that's disrespectful to Washington. But they did just barely beat Arizona State, and they were losing in the 3rd quarter of that game. Next, you do have Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss is sitting there. They do have that loss to Alabama, so very likely not going to the SEC championship. They would need Alabama to lose 2 games, and they would also have to win out. That's not going to happen. So Ole Miss probably going to be on the outside looking in. We'll have to see what happens with their schedule. You do have Kansas State with a very dominant win. I think they crushed TCU. Yeah, they're up to number 14 in the analytical rankings. A&M is at number 15 with 3 losses. Obviously, I disagree with that. That's based off of talent, though. Tennessee sitting at number 16. I would have Tennessee a bit lower. I just don't think they have a good enough offense. USC at number 17. Yeah, USC has Caleb Williams and just a horrible defense. It is what it is. Clemson at number 18 after losing to Miami. Dude, Clemson is down bad as well. It's sad to see. Oregon State sitting at number 19 coming off the bye this week. You do have North Carolina down 6 spots to number 20. That's probably pretty accurate. Miami at number 21. Miami's going to be ranked again for beating Clemson. Good for them. Utah at number 22. People are going to be pissed about that. Yeah, people think, guys, I have to agree with the analytics. I'm not buying Utah. They don't have good enough offensive upside. And I'm a fan of Utah. I'm like their biggest fan, but even I'm admitting I'd probably keep Utah outside of my top 25 at this point because of the lack of explosive offensive plays. That's me. I am a college football expert saying it, so this is a legitimate analysis and really big stuff. You do have Duke sitting at 23. Yeah, it's unfortunate what happened to Duke. SMU is good. SMU should be ranked. Yes, SMU, they destroyed Temple on Friday night. They're throttling everyone. And if you look at their schedule, they are going to finish 10-2. SMU is better than Tulane. Well, I don't know if I can say that, but it's close. And then Missouri at number 25. Certainly they should be ranked. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.